Toaster. He has not stopped licking his leg or whatever he's doing. Stop it. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 146 of the Love and Stitches podcast. It has been so long since I was last able to record a podcast, so I'm really excited to catch you up with everything that I have been working on. I have finished things to show you. I have new projects to show you. I have lots to talk about of what has happened over the last month. But today is a beautiful August Monday here in New York City. I've got a little bit of a different setup here today. I'm sitting in a different chair. All of that will become clear as to why the setup has changed, and a little bit later this month I'll have another vlog video that will kind of share what we've been doing, rearranging furniture and stuff in our apartment. But for now, I think this is going to be interesting, kind of getting used to a new and different setup. My old desk chair used to squeak, and I think this one might make like some funny noises too, so we're gonna get used to it together. But let's just dive right in because we have so much to talk about today. We're gonna kick off the project section with finished objects. I have 4 finished things to show you, and all of my project pages are going to be linked down below under the project section. So first, I have finished my Twisted Tea shorts by Brianna Lupino, who is the Little Wolf Knits. I'm going to show them to you first because I am currently wearing them, and then I'll talk all about the yarn details and things I changed in the project, things I would change for next time. Okay, so here we go. I think I'm gonna need to scoot this back a little bit. Okay, I have been wearing these. I can't get that far back with this chair. Okay, here we go. I love these so much. Let's see if I can do a full rotation. I know you can't see it perfectly, but I cannot move any further back because this chair does not fit in between my bed and the air conditioning unit right here. But these are surprisingly comfortable. I am like shocked by just how comfortable they are. I did make them too big. They have stretched a ton as I have worn them, and they were just too big in the beginning. I mean, like you can see that they're too big around. So that was one, and they're also too tall. So like the waistband to like crotch is at least whatever this is, like 2 inches. So I've just been folding them over, and they're so comfortable to wear like around the house and everything. I've been wearing them a lot. I wore them a ton when we were on vacation. So I'm going to take them off now so that I can actually hold them up and show you different things and share the yarn. So here is what they look like off the body. They're so cute. They were so much fun to make. I have never made anything for the bottom half of my body before. That's not true. I made a skirt once, but I never wore it. And this was way pre Knitty Natty. But I feel like pretty ecstatic and happy with how they turned out, considering that I haven't made anything for that part of my body before. Think about when you first learn to make anything that fits, whether it's like socks or sweaters. It takes a few times for you to really figure out like what measurements you need and all of that. So I'm not upset that these didn't come out fitting me perfectly. It's not the pattern, it's just me learning how I like things to fit. So let's talk about the yarn first, and then I'll talk about the pattern itself and how I kind of made changes. So I used 3 different yarns. They're all Fangirl fibers. They came from a kit. So of course this in the I-cord and the bottom bands were one color. And then the rest of the body is 2 colors that I alternated using a helical knitting. And so I do have quite a bit left. Of those 3 yarns, they were all 100-gram skeins. You can see I've still got a lot left in there. I didn't weigh them exactly, but there you go. So these were all Fangirl fibers, and this is her 50th Disney like 50th anniversary colors. I've got a photo of them in the project page that says which color is which, but at least one was called Celebrate the Magic, Happily Ever After, and Iridescent. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to give these yarns away or not, so I'm gonna hang on to the labels for now. I have thought about making a matching top for these shorts so that I can have a really cute little set, maybe like a tank top or something, but that is not in the near future, so I am just not going to worry about that for right now. So as far as the pattern itself, you begin at the top, you make this lovely fold over waistband, then you work the whole body part before splitting for the legs, and you have a nice little ribbing here at the bottom. It's really well written. It was so much fun to do. So I made the 4th size, and I can't remember exactly what measurements those were for, but my measurements were 33 inches at the waist, and that's like high waist, like the smallest part of my waist, and 40 inches for my hips. So I think I chose the size closest to my waist size, and then I just didn't increase as much when it came to my hip section. So you can see that there are increases here on the side, and I just didn't do as many increases as the waist size that I cast on. Clearly, that was a mistake because I definitely didn't need this much room in the waist as I thought. Again, this is just learning about my preferences and my body and how like a bottom half item is going to fit versus like top half items where I do want like 4 to 5 inches of positive ease, meaning measuring bigger than my measurements in the shorts. And Brianna recommends negative ease, and I was like, no, I can't do negative ease. So I think I was aiming for 0 ease, like finished item, same measurements as me. Well, I learned that I probably need it to be negative ease. So if I were to make these shorts again, I would do 2 things. And I wrote this in my Ravelry project page because I want to make sure that I remember when I make these again. So 1, I would do a smaller size, probably 1 to 2 sizes smaller. And then the other part is I would not knit this rise. So like from the waistband to the crotch, I would not knit that quite as long. I would take off maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. I think I kind of needed it for like the bum part. Like I definitely realized that the fabric needed to come over that far, but I also don't want my shorts super high-waisted. So I think that it wasn't necessary for me to have quite a high rise. But I am still loving wearing them, even though they're a bit oversized. They're so comfortable. Like you wouldn't think that wearing a wool like shorts would be comfortable. They're amazing. Even when I was at the beach, I was like wearing them in the room or sitting on the balcony, and it was just like, why are these so comfortable? Now I want to make some of the Little Wolf Knits pants. She's got flares, she's got joggers, and I'm like, oh, I really want to make those for the winter time, because now that I know how comfortable a pair of hand knit bottoms are, I want to make more and more and more. And I have started something that's kind of like that I will show in the whip section. Let's see, I think the only changes I made were not doing as many increases. I try to put as much info in my Ravelry project page as possible, so definitely head there and take a look to see all of the different things that I did. So finished object number 1, they've been getting lots and lots of wear. So that's not just like blocked, that's like blocked and worn 10 times. So I really know that they are amazing. Okay, the next 3 finished objects you may have seen already if you watched the Sock Week recap. So I'm just gonna go through those quickly. I need like a little table here for my my computer so that I don't have to keep setting it on the floor. So Sock Week 2022 was July 10th through the 17th, and it was so much fun. I worked on finishing 3 separate socks to finish 3 different pairs. So I want to share each of those with you, and I'm so happy because I am now emptying out my label bucket again. It was getting so full, starting so many new projects, and it feels really nice to have it emptied out. So the first pair that I finished is Yarn Over New York. On her Broadway base, it's a sparkle sock, and it was called Tiger's Eye Shark. None of these colors are available right now. They retired when Sock Week ended, but you can definitely shop other yarns from these dyers. that the right way? Yes. Okay. So here are the socks I finished out of Yarn Over New York. And they turned out super cute. These are all perfect fit socks, meaning I use my own custom measurements and the Fish Lips Kiss heel to make these socks. So that was pair number 1. Pair number 2 is from Olivia and Oliver Fibers. And that color was called Baby Shark, and I used the mini Bellini. Also a perfect fit sock. These turned out super cute. I love these. And each of these yarns had a slightly different gauge, so slightly different stitch count, slightly different increases, kept things fun and entertaining. And then the last pair is from the Little Wolf Knits, who is the dyer and the designer of the shorts that I just showed. And that color was Up at Dawn with the Shark Mini. And I did a pattern on this one. This is Summer Lee Knits, the Totally Rad Ribbed Socks. So I followed the pattern for basically the top half, and then once I got to the heel and the foot, I just did my perfect fit socks because I know they fit me well. The rest of the sock was just plain, and I just did it how I like the fit of. I've had a lot of questions and comments on this fold over cuff, which is in the Totally Rad Ribbed pattern. However, it's not like something that Summer Lee made up. It is a fold over hem. You can do it on lots of different things. I've done it on hats. I've done it not on socks before, but I really like it. So the actual technique that I use, I have a video tutorial on. It is called, if you just like search in YouTube, folded brim Knitty Natty, you'll find it. But I did a long tail cast on over 2 needles. You knit double what you need for the fold over. And then you fold it over and you knit together the live stitch with 1 strand from the cast on, and it makes that lovely double thick fold over hem or brim if it's on a hat, or cuff if it's on a sleeve. You can do it in so many different places, but I really like doing it that way, and that was slightly different than the pattern. Okay, that's it for finished objects. I got lots of labels. Actually, let me separate these from the ones. Don't need these anymore. Those can go away. And let's move into whips. I have been putting most of my time and effort into this next whip over the last month since you've seen me. I guess not the last month, because I last recorded a podcast right before Sock Week. That's when I did all of the socks and finished up the shorts. And then as soon as Sock Week was over, I went on vacation and I started 2 new vacation projects, and I have been working on those for the last 3 weeks. So I've done a lot of knitting in just a very few amount of projects. So let me show you what I have been up to. This is so much fun. I actually got both the projects together because we were just out of town this weekend, so I just threw them in the same project bag. So we got some things tangled up here. There we go. Okay. So I cast on, also from the same designer as the Twisted Tea shorts, a brand new pattern called the Seaside Address. Now it's been out for about a month, but I have been anticipating it coming out for the longest time, and it is a long, almost full length dress, sleeveless, and it's super, super cute. It's simple, and I am using my Moon Glow Fade kit. So I've done quite a bit of knitting. It doesn't look like quite as much when I hold it up in the camera, but it's almost like 20 inches of knitting, which is a lot of knitting. And I am super excited with how it's coming out. The yarn is so yummy. Changing colors has been really motivating. It's been the perfect, simple project to just have with me while I've been doing so many different things, traveling around, coming back into town, doing a bunch of work, and then leaving again. It's been just good to have something just easy and simple, but something that I am excited about and can work on long term. So it's got this really great split here at the bottom, which will be down like at the mid calf. And I don't know, can you tell? Yeah, I think you can tell that I'm fading yarn. So it's been kind of tricky. I probably didn't prepare as best as I could have, but I have 9 yarns from Moon Glow Yarn Company. Moon Glow Yarn, and most of them are left over from a project that I did last year, which was the long summer cardi. It was like a long gray cardigan with these little stripes, and I did the little stripes in the pink fade that I have here. So I've got the rest of my fade yarns in this amazing Black Pearl Magic pink bag. It's so good, I love it. And I am currently on the 5th of 9 colors, but I started at 9. 9 is my darkest, 1 is my lightest color. Here's 1. So you can see that it's going to get down to something very, very light here soon. But yeah, it's been really fun just to work on the fading. So when I say I didn't plan super great, I've been bringing my scale around with me. Right here, I have a little pocket scale that measures in like point whatever grams, which has been really helpful. So I figured out like how many grams it takes for me to do a row, and then I'm like, okay, I can do probably about like 30 rows in this color, and then as I start getting closer, I start weighing it again, and I'm like, ooh, you know what, actually I can only do 28 rows or 29 rows, and then I have been fading in between 2 colors. I will do 8 rows alternating. So on the flat portion, that meant I would do like 2 rows in color 9, then 2 rows in color 8, 2 rows in color 9, 2 rows in color 8, and then switch over to the new color. I feel like I didn't say that quite right, but something like that. And then now that I'm in the round, I alternate every row on those 8 faded rows. So color 8 gets a row, color 9 gets a row, color 8 gets a row, color 9 gets a row for 8 rows, and then I switch over to the new color. But sometimes I don't plan it out quite right, and I only got like 6 rows of fading. Anyway, it's not perfect, but I think overall the effect is there, and you can see the fade. I also don't have exactly the same amount of yarn for each of these, so the sections are not going to be exactly perfect, but I really wanted to use this yarn in this dress and see what a fade would look like. I haven't seen anyone do a fade yet. The original pattern has 3 color blocked sections. I've seen other people do stripes, and so I thought this would be a really fun way to use a yarn that I love and a color that I love with a pattern that I'm excited about and just see how it comes out. So I'm currently I'm getting close to the halfway mark. In total, I think it's like 48, 49 inches, and I'm really getting close to like 24. So I'm pretty excited about that. I did stop and try it on. I used the information from the Twisted Tea shorts to kind of help me figure out what size to make for the dress, which I believe I am making the 2nd size for the bottom of the dress, because you start at the bottom. And then when you do shaping for the hips to the waist, I'm going to decrease to the smallest size, because for me, my bust is much smaller than my hips. They're 2 different sizes. So it's great that I'll be able to customize the dress to fit me in both places without being too loose or too tight in either one of those places. So that's what I've done. I've cast on the 2nd size. And then when I get to the hips, I will take out like plain rows in between the decreases to decrease faster. And then I will knit from like the waist up in the smallest size, because that's just how I measure. I have quite a lot of negative ease here. I'm a little nervous about it, but I did try this on the other day and it fits. So I'm not quite getting the gauge that I'm supposed to get. I'm a little bit off. So instead of having 2 inches of negative ease at the hips, I'm going to have 4 inches of negative ease at the hips, which does make me nervous. But again, I tried it on and it looks good, and I know it's going to relax and stretch when I wear it, and I don't want it to be too loose. So this is all about learning. I'm having a good time. I'm taking my time to try it on and everything to make sure it's okay. But you know, it's the first time I'm making a dress, so it may not be absolutely perfect, but I am hoping to be able to wear this as one of my Rhinebeck items this year. Maybe even I'll wear it in Texas when I go to DFW Fiberfest, who knows? But I'm really excited about it, and I'm having a lot of fun making it. So I am trying to finish this by a certain date, which I'll talk about in a segment coming up. But I've done all of this since the last you've seen me. Cast it on literally on the plane as we were leaving on vacation. And then I've been keeping track with markers. I got some new markers from Della Dino, which are so cute. I've been keeping track like where I start for the week, and then each day I move the other markers. So like this was all yesterday, this is where I started for the week, so that I can try to do as many rows as I can per day. I think I need to do like 16 rows per day in order to finish. Oh, that's where I was getting to. So I started to realize that I'm probably not quite gonna have enough yarn, because when I calculated the yardage, I was looking at a size small, or like the smallest size, and I was going off of the gauge in the pattern. Well, putting together that I'm doing a medium on the bottom, only a small on the top, or whatever the sizes are, and I have a smaller gauge, I realized I was gonna need more yarn, because all I have left right now is, let me pull all these out. I have, lift up. I have this much left, and it's just 5, like what's left of the 5th color plus colors 1 through 4. And I've already knit on 9 colors. I've already knit on colors 6 through 9, and I'm not even halfway done. So I might be okay, because it does get smaller as it goes towards the top, but I didn't want to risk it. So I talked with Whitney, the dyer of Moon Glow, and she had a kit already dyed up. And so these right here are 50 grams, which is what these were originally. So she's going to send me 50-gram put-ups of colors 1 and 4, so that I can make sure that I have plenty of yarn. So hopefully those will be coming in this week, because I am almost to the point on color 5 where I need to fade into color 4, and I want to wait until I receive the new color 4 in the mail. That have been totally confusing, but basically I'm kind of like not as motivated to work on this and zoom through the colors right now, because once I use up all this color, I'm going to be stuck until I get my new color in the mail, which is fine. I do have more travel coming up, so I will be able to bring this and work on it. Okay, so that was one new project. And then I started one other project when I left on vacation, and this was just another pair of socks. I'm calling these my vacation socks, but they are another pair of vanilla perfect fit socks, which is just a custom fit that I teach in my perfect fit sock course that uses the fish lips kiss heel and just other basic sock techniques. So this yarn is from Olivia and Oliver Fibers. Tam, who is the dyer, sent this along with the sock week yarn, and it's just the most perfect color. She nailed it on like colors that I love. It's called Bavois, and I know I might not be saying that exactly right, but I looked it up, and it's like a cream or something that can go on like a cake or dessert or something like that. And this is nice because I only have 2 whips. I only have 2 labels in here. I love that. So I started the first sock right before we left on vacation, and I thought this was like the perfect like beachy progress keeper. That's also from Della Dino. Whenever I get new progress keepers or new bags, I just like use those for many projects and then move on to like the next thing. I don't know if anyone else does that. But I finished the first sock while we were on vacation at some point, or maybe I finished it when I got back. Probably finished it when I got back, but I did work on it a lot while we were out of town, and then I started up the next sock, and I'm already halfway through. So because I have more travel coming up, I'm trying to think what I want to cast on. I'm actually running pretty low on stash. I only have 1 more skein of yarn that could be like socks. Of course, I could use leftovers to make socks, but I'd rather cast on a project that's going to help me get through some stash, even if it's like a simple sweater or something else, rather than just start a pair of socks for the sake of starting a pair of socks. So I need to brainstorm that before I leave out of town again this Thursday. Gotta think about what I want to do. But just a simple pair of socks for grab and go knitting whenever I need it. You know, walking to Pilates, going out and meeting people for knitting. They've been worked on quite a bit. That's it for all of my projects. Time to catch up on the end of July stash stuff and the start of August new plans. Today is Monday, August 8th. Yes, Monday, August 8th. So I've got some plans for August, and I also kind of want to review what happened in July, because even though the last podcast was in July, it was like right at the beginning, and so a lot has happened since then. So let's start with a stash update. I'm pulling out my notebook. I like to keep like a table of contents so I can find like July plans, August plans, like whatever else. I use this for work, I use this for journaling. Let's see, July, in and out, page 112. Okay, let me find that. So I have been really keeping track of my stash this year because I have a goal to eliminate my stash in 2022. I started this in January. Recently I did a 6-month update to talk about halfway through the year, but there's like a whole playlist on my channel that goes through my stash and updating my stash and eliminating my stash. It's been a really interesting journey. So I like to keep a little page. I've only been doing this for the last few months, but it's really helpful. So I just do like title for the month. I've got a new one started for August already. I do where I ended the previous month, yarn that's coming in, yarn that's going out, and then at the end of the month I write down how many, is that on screen? How many skeins are left. So let's talk about July. July was an interesting month because I just feel like it went by so fast. I was barely in town for it, and the one of the 2 weeks that I was at home was sock week, so that kind of went by in like a blur. But I was surprised to find that I did not take in any yarn in July, so there's nothing in the in column. I ended June with 30 skeins of yarn in my stash, and stash is anything that's intact, not in a current project. As soon as I start a project, all the skeins that are part of that project come out of stash. So anything that's intact, not in a project, is stash yarn to me. And then nothing came in the month of July, but I did have, let's see, 7, 10 skeins go out, but they weren't all in projects because I didn't do a lot of like new stuff in the month. So 5 skeins of Madeline Tosh yarn went to a friend. It was a sweater quantity that I bought last year that I was like, you know what, I really don't think I'm going to be making this. I have so many other things that I am loving more. Let me pass this on to a friend. 2 skeins of yarn went out as a prize from my stash that I did for my membership. Another skein went out to a friend. It was a sweaters quantity that I think I had had for like 5 years. I'm like, be realistic, Natalie. You're not going to work on this. Somebody else could love it more. So I sent that off to a friend. So that was 8 yarns that went out as donations or prizes or gifts. And then 2 skeins went out in projects. 1 for sock week. The other 2 sock week yarns I'd already gotten into in June. And then 1 skein, I considered 1 skein for, oh, you know what? I'm missing 1 project on here, I just realized. As I'm looking at it. See, this is good, I need to look at it. So I only considered 1 skein coming out of stash for this because most of this yarn was stash except for the 2 new ones that I ordered, and they were 50-gram skeins. So even though it's 2 50-gram skeins, I just considered it 1 for the dress. And then what I'm realizing is I didn't take this yarn out of stash. So technically, because I started these in July, I need to amend this and write on here that those also came out for July. I will probably just write it in August instead because this is already done. That's okay. But anyway, so pretending that those socks don't exist or they're August socks. So I ended June with 30 skeins. I gave away or gifted 8 skeins, used up 2 in July, and ended July with 20 skeins in my stash. It's getting pretty wild that it's getting down to such few numbers. As I was sharing a moment ago, I'm kind of like, I only have 1 sock yarn left that's intact. I have lots of leftovers, don't get me wrong. I could totally probably make like 30 more pairs of socks with the leftovers that I have, but I'm right now working through stash. That is my goal, is stash, not leftovers. And so it's kind of, you know, framing the projects that I want to work on and that I'm motivated to work on. So I gotta think about this next month here, what I really want to be using up. I definitely have some project plans for August, and those are not coming from Stash. So that will be interesting to kind of figure out how I'm still going to work through Stash, even though I'm not going to be using Stash for my main project. Okay, I didn't even write this in my notes to share, but I am going to look at it really quickly. I did some July project plans, and I just kind of like to review after the end of a month if I was able to do that. So when I started July, I had my twisted tee shorts and 2 pairs of socks started. I wanted to finish the shorts, finish the 2 socks, and finish a 3rd pair of socks. Those 3 pairs of socks were sock week. Those are done. The shorts are done. So July, check, all done. I finished everything for July. My other plan was to cast on the Seaside dress, and I did that. So there you go. July, all checked off and all finished. I knew to keep it really, really simple for that month because I knew I was going to be really focused on sock week and traveling and everything. And for August, I have also kept it really, really simple. So here are my August plans. And I have a video on how I make my plans, how I break things down, called Planning My Summer Projects, if you search for it in YouTube. So this month in August, I have 2 whips. I have my vacation socks, and I have my Seaside dress that I showed on this podcast. I have only one plan to cast things on, and that is the Alpine Glow sweater from Andrea Mowry. It is her Rhinebeck sweater, and the Love and Stitches membership has decided that we are going to knit on that together for one of our make-alongs. Those are literally the only plans I have for the month. I think from doing these plans over and over and over again, starting in January to now August, I've learned what I can expect from myself and how to not overwhelm myself or put too much on my plate. So we'll see how that works as far as like podcasting and stuff. I'm thinking, wow, if I'm only working on 3 projects, that's gonna make for some, you know, a little bit dull podcast content. But the truth of the matter is that this is the phase of knitting life that I'm in. And so I'm going to share that with you. And one day it may change and I may be where I want to make all the projects again. Who knows? That's where I'm currently at. So goals for this month. I want to be able to cast on Alpine Glow, the new sweater, on August 22nd when the Andrea Mowry make-along or cowl begins. So before that, I want to finish my Seaside dress. I've got a long way to go. That's only 14 days away. It's actually 2 weeks from today before Alpine Glow starts. And I will also need to make sure I swatch for Alpine Glow. I want to be like ready to cast on. I'm going to talk more about the yarn in just a second. So my main push right now, I'm not worried about the socks. The socks will probably just get finished because they're just out and about knitting. Not worried about those. I'm really just worried about, not even worried. I'm really just focused on working on this dress. It's my morning knitting, it's my lunchtime knitting, it's my nighttime knitting, knitting on this dress. That's the only thing that I'm focused on because it's a lot of knitting, and in order to get it finished in 2 more weeks, I've got to work on that almost exclusively. And that is what I will be doing. So I had a plan. I kind of figured out like how many rows I would need to do in each of these weeks before the 22nd. And then you can see that I only did a day by day plan for 1 week. The reason I didn't do a day by day plan for all 3 weeks is because I know things change. And a lot of times in that first week, I'm seeing what I'm actually capable of. Am I actually capable of doing 16 rows in a day? Is that realistic to ask myself? And I think that it was, except that I stopped working on it because I, 1, had friends in town and we were going out and about and I was just working on my socks. And 2, I realized I was running out of yarn. And so I kind of didn't feel motivated to blow through the yarn that I had and then just be waiting for my yarn to come in. So now that I know my yarn's on the way in the mail, I'm going to start working on that dress again and then working on my socks on the side. And that's kind of it. I do need to find at least 1 more project, probably, to cast on before I go out of town over the weekend. No, I don't really. I can just work on my dress. There's something about having 1 project that makes me kind of nervous. Like, what if it's not the right situation? What if I'm in a tricky spot? I'll have to think on that. I'll get back to you in the next podcast. But that's basically it for August plans as far as whips. But I do want to show you my Alpine Glow yarn. I'm having a hard time with this because I'm not really loving my colors. So first of all, let's talk about the pattern. Alpine Glow 1 is by Andrea Mowry. I think we have a picture to show so you can see, just in case you haven't seen the pattern. It's a beautiful top-down colorwork sweater. I think it's got 4 different colors. You have like the neck and cuff color, you have this fuzzy bit of yarn on the neck and cuff, and then the rest of the sweater is a solid color paired with Spin Cycle. Spin Cycle is a like plied and stripy kind of a yarn. It's really unique, really cool, and I've only used it one time before. It is quite an investment, and so I was really excited to have 2 skeins of Spin Cycle already in my stash. I had thought about using them for another sweater, but never actually purchased the yarn to go with it. So I'm excited to be able to use them in this one. Sip of coffee for the next bit. So let me grab what I ordered because I am so not set on this and I would love your opinion, even though I know already how I feel about this. So I know that I'm already going to change it. Oh, okay. So I have never been able to be the person, I think, that orders the yarn that is suggested for the sweater. I've always felt that that's quite a privilege to be able to do that, and not just because you have like the means, but also to have like not have the guilt of needing to use stash or whatever pressures that you put on yourself as a maker, that I also put on myself as a maker. Oh, I need to use stash. Oh, I can't knit the new sweater pattern because I already have these 8 sweater patterns and yarns lined up. All of those things is a big part of why I'm working to eliminate my stash this year, so that I can go, ooh, the new pattern is out, and like I want to get exactly the yarn that works for this pattern, that's suggested for this pattern, that I love the colors about, that I'm excited about. And this is kind of the first opportunity that I've been able to experience that and see how it goes. And it hasn't gone well. And it's not because it's like, oh, I don't like the yarn itself. It's just I'm not a huge fan of the colors that I pick for myself, and I have a solution. But I want to share all that with you because I feel like you're on this journey with me, the stash journey, the learning about yourself journey, the enjoying knitting for what it is journey. And so I want to share the good and the bad. There's not really that much bad when it comes to knitting, because at the end of the day, it is a fun hobby and it is just such a privilege to be able to get to do this. Okay, my yarns. So these are the 2 skeins of Spin Cycle that I have in my stash. They are the same color, but I did not get them at the same time, which I'm kicking myself over, because the one that I really love is this one. This one's pretty too, but it's not quite the same. They are both Spin Cycle Unicorn, which I believe this colorway is exclusively dyed for Do You Knit in New Jersey, which is where I got it. So I like this one more because it's more light pinks, purples. This one has like some green and stuff in it, and I don't love it as much. But the good news is I will only need a full skein and a little bit of the next one. So I believe I'll be able to kind of cut in and out the parts of this. Like, see how there's some like bits where it's really purpley and stuff? I'll be able to just use what I want from this skein and then use the one that I love. So this is where I'm basing everything off of. Now, the other vision I had for this sweater is neutral. So I wanted a white base for the sweater. So I bought this from Magpie Yarns, and I really, really like how the yarn feels. It's so squishy and nice. So this is the main color. This is also spun, I think, by Spin Cycle, and then dyed from Magpie Fibers. If you were also shopping this update, it was like very crazy because the yarn sold out super fast. So I was at Disney World when the yarn went on sale, and I was like, all right, everyone, it's noon. I need to go in the shade for a few minutes. And then I was like on my phone, putting together colors and ordering. So I just went with my gut when I ordered stuff, not being able to see it in person. So I picked, this is called Fior de Latte, I think. And that is my main color. Then for the contrast, I chose this. And what is so hard about ordering online, and this is not necessarily like, I know for the dyers, it's really hard to accurately represent the color because even if it's accurate on their screen, it may not be on your screen because of different settings. So I did picture this as a brighter color. It did look brighter, at least on my screen, but again, that's the risk when you order online. It's a beautiful color still. It's called Careless Whisper. So this would be the top. Let me just hold these up together. Okay, nice so far, right? And then I imagined a neutral for the fuzzy part. Again, this goes here at the top and it goes on the wrist. And so I've got a really neutral color called Elk Antler. This one is from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. Because I wasn't able to get the Magpie base, it was already sold out by the time I was ordering, like 10 minutes after the update. So these are my 4 colors. And to be honest, they do look quite nice. But I'm just not sure I'm in love with this. I think what's throwing me off is this color is a bit too buttery. It's not really coming across so much on the screen, but I think you can tell against like the white sheets here that it's definitely more of a creamy yellow. It's a beautiful color, but it's not really looking right, I think, with everything that I have or with this color here. I don't know, what do you think? I already know what I think, so I'm gonna stick with it. I guess if I'm doing the order of the sweater, let's do this. I spent a lot of time with my friend Amy this weekend going over these colors, and you know, you have to kind of go with your gut. If you're not liking something, you're not liking something, and you're probably gonna continue to not like it as you knit it up. It's better to trust yourself and change it at that point. So this would be the top, then the fuzzy, then the main color with the stripey in between. Not bad, but not exactly what I was hoping for. So what do you do at that point? Well, old me would have said, I already ordered and paid for the yarn, so this is what I'm going to use. And then I think the whole time I was working on it, I would be like, not really wanting to work on it and going, why don't I want to work on it? Oh, it's because I don't like the colors. Well, I don't have a choice. I already bought and paid for the yarn. So again, this is such a privilege to be able to do this, but what I'm planning to do is to actually look for some more yarn. And I'm going to order the yarn. I just don't really have any places around me that carry these type of things, or that I don't know. I tried to kind of like look around me first at different yarn stores, but I think the best place is going to be online. So I have an appointment today. I'm really excited about this. I have a virtual shopping appointment with Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and they are in Montana, I think. And they do virtual shopping appointments at their storefront. So you can book one with them online, they're 30 minutes, and then you can shop with them via Zoom. So you can actually see the colors, and then you have somebody there in person that can see the colors and go, like if somebody in person had put these together, they might have said, it's a little buttery, you might not like that. But somebody in person who can look at them and tell you what they think and help me shop. So I'm planning to do that and order new colors. Now I'm very much like I don't like to mix bases or anything. So I'm planning to get new colors for the main color and the top color, because again, I was imagining something brighter, and I think also changing this as well. And I'm gonna order that. This is my plan. I still feel a little nervous about this and a little bit like guilty, I guess, for ordering so much yarn. I don't know. It's all funny how we make ourselves feel certain ways about certain things, but I'm gonna order the new yarn. Once it comes in, I will sit down with everything that I have and I will pick my favorite from there. And again, past me probably would not have done this. I would have just said, this is what I ordered. I need to work with this because that's what I ordered. But now I'm kind of learning, like, it's okay if I get myself another option and then make a choice, and then I have so many choices past that. I don't need to hang on to these yarns. I can use them for something else. I could give them away. I could sell them. I could say, oh, maybe somebody else has some spin cycle at home and they think that these colors would pair beautifully with the spin cycle they have, and I could sell them the kit. you know, like I can do that. There's so many options, and I'm feeling very grateful that I'm able to do this, like to have the means to be able to get multiple sweater sets and then choose my favorite from there. Of course, this would all be easier if I was just in a yarn store picking things out, because I would be able to compare them there. But I'm trying not to feel guilty about it, and I'm excited to do my virtual shopping appointment today. I think that's going to be really cool. So yeah, this is just not quite what I was envisioning. I'm not 100% on it. I do think the yarns are beautiful. It's just not what I was hoping for this sweater. And my friend said a really good thing. They were like, if you're gonna spend all this time and all this money knitting and making this thing and wearing this thing, you want it to be something that you love. So don't be afraid to take the time and the resources to do that. It's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about it. Let's talk news and events. So a couple of things have happened since I last got to talk to you here on the podcast, and that is that Sock Week started and ended, and we had a fantastic and wonderful time. Thank you all so much for participating in Sock Week in any way that you did, whether you were knitting socks or watching people make socks or crochet socks. I always forget to say crochet. But we had a really, really great time. So 2 videos based on Sock Week have come out since I last spoke to you. One was the Sock Week closing ceremonies. I guess the Sock Week kickoff also happened, so I need to make sure to add that in. So the Sock Week kickoff, the Sock Week closing ceremonies, and then I also made a vlog throughout Sock Week that I posted after it was all said and done, called the Sock Week Recap, where I talked about my journey each and every day. Like literally that morning I would sit down and say, this is my goal for Sock Week today, and then I'd try to make it, and then I'd say the next day, oh, I didn't make the goal, or I did make the goal, etc. So those 3 videos are out if you haven't seen them yet. Let's talk about having trouble speaking today. Let's talk about some of the events that are coming up this year, because I do have several things that I am going to be attending in the fall. So the first one that's coming up next is DFW Fiber Fest, which is in Irving, Texas, just outside of Dallas. This is in September 22nd through the 25th. I am planning to be there on that Friday. I think it's the 23rd of September. I'm going to be taking a class, and then I'm going to go shop around the marketplace. I don't know if I'll be there on any of the other days. Toaster. He has not stopped licking his leg or whatever he's doing. Stop it. I'm planning to be there on Friday, so if you're going to be there at DFW Fiber Fest, I would love to meet you. The next thing that is coming up after that is Rhinebeck, which is in October. I actually didn't write down the dates on this one, but I am planning to be at Rhinebeck. I'm going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm going to Cake Palooza and Woolen Folk on Friday, and then I'll be at Rhinebeck on Saturday and Sunday. And again, I would love to meet you and take a picture or just say hi. I'm probably going to order something that I can hand out. I haven't thought that far yet, but I will think about it and do that. Hopefully I'll be wearing my Alpine Glow and my dress on one day. Not together, but separately. And then the last thing is I just signed up for a retreat in March, just outside of Austin, Texas, the Hill Country Weavers Retreat. This is the last retreat that I went to before the pandemic. It was in March of 2020, and literally the weekend before the world shut down. So I'm really excited to go back to this retreat. There's some amazing teachers. I'm going with several friends, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and I will be excited to see you there. As far as other things that are coming up, August videos are going to be a little hit or miss. I'm still doing a lot of traveling in the months of August and September, actually, and October and November and December. Anyway, but I'm intentionally still taking some time to, ease up a little bit during the summer. So in August, you can expect probably just one more podcast. Later on this month, I do have a handful of different vlogs and videos that I'm going to be sharing. So just check back in periodically. There won't be as consistent of a schedule as far as videos go on YouTube. We don't have any make-alongs going on in this month of August. We actually won't have anything going on until later in November. So yeah, just still a lot of travel coming up, and I just appreciate being able to take that and your patience as I am able to be off for some weeks and back on for some weeks. It just makes it so much better to be refreshed and ready to go. A lot has happened since the last podcast as far as life goes, so I'm going to be brief here and just kind of catch you up on everything that has gone on. So of course we had Sock Week in July, mid-July, July 10th to the 17th. And then right after that, Kent, my husband, and I, we left for Jamaica. We went to a resort there for, I think it was 7 days, and we were celebrating our 5-year wedding anniversary. It was a great time. We spent the first 2 days literally like sleeping and catching up on sleep. And then we had a lot of fun at the pools and laying on the beach. We're not really ocean people, so we didn't get into the water all that much. And when I did get into the water last year, I got stung by a jellyfish, so I'm kind of content to watch the water from the pool or the bar or a beach chair. But we had just a really, really great time. I knitted a lot on the beach. I got myself another little book prop, so I was able to read and knit as long as it wasn't too hot and we were in the shade. So that was great. I did a ton of my dress. I had so much fun every afternoon. Usually it rained where we were in Jamaica, and so I would go get like a coffee and a treat, sometimes a crepe, and I would sit on our patio that we had off of our room and watch the rain and knit and read, and it was seriously the best time. I would wear my twisted t-shirts and be all comfy, and it was great. And then right after that, on our way back into the United States, we stopped in Orlando for a few days and got to visit with Kent's mom. We also went to Epcot for a couple days for the Food and Wine Festival. So we had some treats. We got to ride 2 of the newer rides that we hadn't been on before. We had not been on Ratatouille, and we had not been on the new Guardians ride. Whoa, if you haven't been, if you're a fan of Disney and you haven't been on the new Guardians ride, it was one of the coolest rides that I've ever been on. It was so much fun. We got to ride it twice, and it was great. And that was a really quick trip. I think we were there for like 3 days. And then we came back to New York, got a little toaster for a week, and had, was it a week? I guess we had just a few days. And then it was this past weekend. Time's moving so fast. So originally, this past Wednesday through Saturday, I think, was going to be Vogue Knitting Live New York. Normally, this is a retreat, classes, marketplace that's held in January every year, but they've not had it for the past 2 years. So they tried to have it in August. I was all signed up. I had several classes for it. My friend Amy was coming in. She was going to take a few classes. I think I knew a couple other people in New York were going to go to it. And they decided about a month before the event to cancel. And it was just because they had not enough people signed up. Luckily, they're going to be doing the retreat now in February, so I'm definitely planning to go, and I'm able to use like all of my classes that I paid for that. But basically, because it was only a month, like it was only a month away when they canceled it, I already had plans to take time off. My friend Amy and her husband had already had a hotel booked, and so we were like, you know what? We were already planning this time. Why don't we just still make this a really fun, long weekend, take the time off, knit together, kind of do our own thing. So that's exactly what we did. Amy and her husband came into New York City. Kent and like the 4 of us, we went to a bunch of different restaurants. We took them to some of our favorite restaurants. Like there's a sushi place we always love going to, an Italian place we always love going to. We went to Serendipity, which is an ice cream place that's in a movie called Serendipity. We just did a bunch of different things. Of course, we knit, we hung out, and then on the weekend, we went with them to their house in New Jersey, and we just like hung out and had a great time and played games and everything. So we kind of did a split weekend, New York City, New Jersey, to replace Vogue Knitting Live because we wanted to still have a great time. And it was so much fun. And that brings us up to today. Now we're back, we're home, and we're ready to work. I do have more travel coming up. So I'm going to be away this weekend. In September, we're going to be away like 3 weekends. Of course, going to DFW Fiber Fest, and then it's like, oh wow, October, then we're going to Rhinebeck, and then November it's Thanksgiving, and then December it's Christmas. And so I'm trying not to like get bogged down by all the things that are coming up and just instead enjoy and appreciate that I'm able to do all of this travel. I think that's it for, oh no, I forgot one thing. I totally forgot about this because this was like a quick last minute thing that I'm so glad got to happen. So the day that I came back from Orlando, we were so tired, I mean like traveling and everything, but two Love and Stitches members that I hadn't gotten to meet yet, well no, one I had met, but hadn't gotten to spend a lot of time with, were here in New York City, and they were like, if you can make it, like come join us, we're gonna be close by. And so I rallied, I was literally falling asleep on the couch, and I was like, no, I gotta go. So I went and I met them on the High Line, which is this really cool kind of park in New York City that was built on an old elevated railroad that's no longer in use. And so we met on the High Line, and we sat and we knit, and it was so much fun. It was just a couple of hours, but it was a great time to get to meet people and hang out with them. I'm always like down for an opportunity to sit and knit together, especially if we're like somewhere pretty or getting some coffee or whatever it is. It was so much fun. Okay, I think that's everything that's happened. Basically, I've just been having a party for the past few weeks with some work in between. I have been reading a lot. I read a ton on vacation, so I finished an entire series. This was suggested to me by somebody, I think on Instagram. It is called The Selection by Kiera Cass. I read books 1 through 5, and I read one of like the novellas in between. There's a ton of other ones that I might go back and read, but basically it's about a like kind of dystopian society, and there is a monarchy in like the new United States or whatever, and there's a competition to become the princess. So it's kind of like, it's a young adult novel. It's, you know, a little bit of cutesy stuff and difficult stuff, and anyway, it's a fun read. So I read all 5 books in that series over the course of like 2 weeks, I think, because I was reading a ton on vacation, and they were fantastic. And now I am back on the Bridgerton train. I read all the Bridgerton core books, but now I'm reading the Bridgerton pre-sequel. Is that what's called? Prequel. I'm reading the prequel. It's a whole series called the Roxby series on another family that predates the Bridgertons, at least the ones that we know. And I am on the second one. It's called The Girl with the Make-Believe Husband, and it is excellent. I love Julia Quinn, and I'm really happy to be reading Bridgerton-like books again. I'm loving it. Okay, let's end here with weekly wins. I am just really, I'm really grateful and proud of myself for getting to a place where I'm able to take so much time off like I have these last 2 weeks, and not just like say I'm taking the time off, but like actually take the time off, not open my computer while I'm away, and things still go well. They're going well, right? Everyone's okay. That's what I still worry about sometimes, but to be able to do that and to not feel guilty like, oh, I need to be making videos or posting on Instagram or doing X, Y, and Z, and still having things run smoothly and get done and support my family. This supports our family. This is not just a fun hobby anymore. While it is a hobby, or it started as a hobby and it is super fun, it's still a business, and I'm really grateful that it is working well enough that I'm able to do these things, like take time off and get to go fun places and do fun things, and all of this travel that's coming up that's yarn related. I'm so excited that I get to do that and to meet new people. So I'm just feeling really proud of myself for getting Knitty Natty to this point, and all the work I've been doing this year on perfectionism to be able to not feel guilty when I take time off has been really, really good and something to celebrate. So definitely take a look at your own week and what has been going on, and celebrate yourself in some way. All right, I think that's everything. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.